Hello, 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 and welcome to Role Playing Gamescast. We're your hosts, Tony.
And I'm still Joe.
And we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about Hollow Knight, Breath of the Wild, Spider-Man, Let's Go Pikachu, some Devil May Cry anime, PlayStation Plus deals, and we're going to talk a fair amount about cooking today, too, I think. A book that Joe's read and an experiment that I'm doing. So let's go ahead and get started with our first section, Joe, which is what?
Side quests, where we talk about the game that we're playing that is not Kingdom Hearts.
Joe, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, I finally beat Breath of the Wild. It took me maybe a year and a half, but it's done.
A year and a half. So Joe...
Yeah, playing off and on. I started out on the Wii U, played about 20 hours, and then when I got...
started on the Wii U version.
Yeah, and then when I got my Switch, I was like, Switch, I really would like to be playing here. So I sold my Wii U copy, got the Switch one, and started over, and then took a break and came back to it. It was a real slow progress.
Real slow burn, but you finished it. So there's so much game to talk about.
There is, and it's a hard game to talk about, I find, because it doesn't do a lot that's very new or very easy to identify as new, but it feels like such a weird, unique experience. Like the world just as a whole feels so alive and feels so. I think I'm probably gonna almost certainly fall short in terms of like my ability to understand game design and how what's being done is done. But yeah, it's one of my favorite games ever.
So what was something that was your favorite? What's one of your favorite things about the game? Something that you look back and you go, man, I really enjoyed that mechanic, or I really enjoyed that location, or whatever.
Really, just how well I understood the world at the very end, because it's massive. But I felt like you could drop me almost anywhere on that ridiculously large map, and I would like have my bearings and understand where I was and what was near me like pretty soon. Yeah. Bethesda does this well too. It's not just Nintendo. Like a lot of games like this, there's a lot of flat terrain, and mountains are kind of like the tool that they use to border things off.
Keep you from doing.
Yeah, but it's not so. I mean, ultimately, they do use mountains to border you off in Breath of the Wild, but you play a lot of game before you even get to the edge of the map, unless you're deliberately trying to find it.
Right. And I think, there's a couple of things that I really enjoyed about that game. I felt like it's got a lot of limitations, but I still enjoyed the game. The experience as a whole was just so. So what were the limitations? Because I was thinking that, man, I feel like that game is very not limiting in a lot of ways that maybe some other open world games are limiting.
When I say limited, I mean like in enemy variety, amount of like stuff to do on the map in some places, which maybe isn't terrible. Yeah. I mean, there are places where like the nothingness is kind of cool.
Yeah, I never felt like it was limited. I just felt like there was stuff that was stark, but it's stark like somewhere, if you went to the desert, it would be stark,
Yeah.
Like everything felt very believable.
Okay.
Nothing felt out of place. Like every time I was somewhere, I was like, man, I'm here. Like I just felt immersed in that environment.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing I feel like it does well is like it truly is open world, like almost sandboxy, in that like you can just do anything. You can go begin whatever you want.
Yeah. They create some really interesting tools for just making things happen in that world, and then they don't limit them with context. It's just do it anywhere and see what happens. But then they design the challenges in the world itself in ways that make it fun to interact with it that way. The sound design is really
who's
really
the
great
director
too.
of that game?
I think it's Aonuma, right? Same guy who did Wind Waker and a lot of I think it's Aonuma.
Did he do Ocarina?
I don't know if he goes back that far. Let's see.
I remember him saying that he was like one of his big things was he just wants to create a world, give people tools, and see what they do.
Yeah, that was 100% this game.
That game, I thought that was this game to a T, and that like quote, because I just kept ringing over and over in my mind the whole time I played that game.
They definitely use weapons as like a limiting factor in the game, but I was
literally about to bring that up.
I totally managed to like sneak my way to some higher level weapons early on, and I still had a hard time with enemies that I was able to deal with very easily by the end of the game. And it wasn't because I didn't have the tools. It was because I hadn't fought them enough. It's a game that does, in the same way that Dark Souls does, it forces you to level yourself up to deal with the challenges by the end. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah. I there were some times where I found the weapon thing annoying, where they could break like basically after like 3 battles. You know?
It's worse early in the game.
It is. But I also felt like it really made me try to be creative in other ways to defeat enemies, which was so, just like necessity is the mother of invention.
And they even have a challenge if you went to Eventide Isle. Did you go do that? Yeah, where you
have like no weapons and no nothing, no armor.
You played that part, right?
Yeah. Where they take all your shit away. It took me like hours and hours and hours, I think, to get that done.
But it's really in the right part of the game where you've really gotten used to like doing what you can with the tools that they give you.
Yeah,
it's a really well-timed challenge, and it really captures the spirit where you're supposed to just get weird with the systems and come up with like crazy alternate ways to take down enemies and do stuff. I really liked it.
Yeah, man. I thought, and normally in a situation like that, I'd be annoyed, again, they just find these ways to put you in situations where you got to find clever solutions to problems.
And as far as like why the world is so immersive when it's like actually not a super impressive game graphically, it's just all about like art and sound design.
Yeah, it may not be like graphically impressive, but artistically, like it's really impressive.
Yeah, like just the colors and like the way light hits things and the way they designed the topography. It's all just really, really interesting and evocative. And there's always really good sound and music that goes along, like that really fits wherever you're at. I just love it. I absolutely love the game.
My favorite musical thematic material in that whole game is Cass's theme.
Which one?
You know that he's playing the little accordion every so often when you find the bird?
Yeah.
That's my phone ringer. That's like my ringtone. I freaking love that music so much,
man.
Idea.
And it's so great because you always hear it and you're like, oh, I'm this guy again. Awesome. I'm going to get like some kind of shrine challenge or something.
Yeah. My buddy Chris, who we've talked about a lot, he's like a completionist. So we're very different human beings. So like, I'm kind of just like a mess and very just type B personality, and he's super type A and in his life and everything, which is why he gets annoyed with me all the time. But
I've played Divinity with you guys. I know.
Yeah. So like he's so like meticulous, and so he went and he got every Korok seed.
Oh God,
every one of them.
Really?
Yeah, he 100% of that game. He did everything he could do in that game.
I'm guessing he had to use a guide or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's I like really exploring a game, but I also feel like when I'm using a guide to do it, that I'm not exploring anymore.
I'm like hit or miss about stuff like that. I don't feel like the compulsory need to complete a game fully to feel like I've gotten it.
Yeah, that as well.
Like it's just not me, but he's that way. But he loved that game and he got everything you absolutely could get in it.
Nice.
So yeah, Breath of the Wild, guys, if you haven't played it, you're missing out on everything. It is also one of the best games I've played. I really loved it.
Breath of the Wild, good game out of 10. All right.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a good game.
It's a real scale of 1 to 10. It's a pretty good game.
So, Joe, you have another thing you want to talk about, a game that I have not played.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's expensive or not. Because if it's not, I might get it and play it.
I think it is $7 on the sale right now. There's a PlayStation sale going on, and we'll talk about
buy it
that more later. But it's $7. I am playing Hollow Knight.
Yes,
right now.
Talk to us about Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania, which I assume everybody knows what that is. It's basically Super Metroid style traversal, where you have this large map with like different regions and basically rooms that you transition between. Like you have a room that that's pretty small, and then you go to like a doorway, and then it shifts, and you go to the next room, and you have a map that shows you how everything works overall.
Where does it get?
Really common genre. Say what?
Where does it get the Vania part of the genre title?
I think it gets that from the direction that Castlevania went with Symphony of the Night.
Combat?
No, like map-wise, because Symphony of the Night's map is basically like a Metroid map. They kind of like converged with that game.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's where the title comes from. Yeah.
And this game it's not like anytime I hear like Hollow Knight, I always assume that it's not like a roguelite, right? It's like an actual game that you're playing.
Right. It's not. Are those the two genres, roguelikes and actual games? Oh my god! You mean is the map randomly generated? Is what you're asking?
Correct. And is it like you die and you have to restart all over again?
No, it is 100% not that. It's a persistent map, and the death is dealt with kind of in the same way that Dark Souls is. And I'll jump into that later because this game cribs a lot from Dark Souls.
Really?
But in a way that's like effortless and just works really freaking well.
Okay.
It also does storytelling a lot like Dark Souls does, which is really interesting. But it's this really like dark gothic game where all the characters are bugs, and you're exploring this ancient city, like ancient abandoned somehow city called the Hollow Nest, I believe. Let me make sure I'm not lying about that.
All right.
Yeah, the Hollow Nest. Your character just shows up in this like really small town above the Hollow Nest, and you know that you're there to explore it, but you don't know why. It doesn't tell you how it got there. It doesn't tell you your character's name. You're given almost nothing. Very similar to a Dark Souls game.
Okay.
And there are NPCs in the town, and you'll eventually find that there are NPCs down in the Hollow Nest as you explore, and you'll see the same ones in multiple places in different situations. You can interact with them in different ways. There are different like layers to the kind of economy of the game that you explore as you move through it, and it's never explained to you super well. You just kind of have to dig into it and figure it out. The storytelling is very much like told through like little bits of NPC chatter, item descriptions, statues that you find in hidden places.
Okay.
It's cryptic in the same way that Dark Souls is. The combat's very challenging. Boss fights are really inventive. There's a soul mechanic where as you kill enemies, you gain soul, and you can use it to cast spells, which includes healing yourself. When you die, your soul winds up at the spot that you died at, and you have to go retrieve it before you die again to get back all of your money.
Which is very Dark Souls.
Build your soul meter back up. It's a beautiful game. The environment and the characters are all hand drawn. It's got this like really, really like sad, beautiful soundtrack with a lot of string music and piano. Very challenging, but very fair. It's really, really fucking fun to fight things. Which is good because the map is, as far as Metroidvanias go, enormous. It's huge. So it takes a long time to move from place to place. There's like a fast travel. You basically unlock the old public transit system of this nest as you're moving around. So you get fast travel points, but the map's so big that even if you get to the closest fast travel point, you've still got a ways to go before you get where you're trying to go.
And this game was produced by an Australian studio called Cherry. The Cherry.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
And is this their first game?
I am not sure about that. I think it might be. And the game was also partially crowdfunded as well.
Oh, okay. That makes sense, yeah. These 2D games often wind up coming from that kind of a situation.
Yeah. Which I think is always super cool. I think for me to see like an indie studio develop a game at that level, partially crowdfunded. I mean, you know, the reviews. I mean, I received a lot of really great reviews.
Oh, it's an incredible game. Yeah, it's one of the best I've played this year easily. I'm about 15 to 20 hours in. Yeah, easily. I'm about 15 to 20 hours in, I think.
I'm getting it right now, Joe.
To go. Okay, all right. I'm doing like every optional thing that comes up. I'm exploring like every cranny that I possibly can find, just because it's fun to do, and there's so much hidden stuff and like missable shit.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Did you ever play Salt and Sanctuary?
No, but I imagine if I did, this is the game that I would have wanted it to be instead, because I read a lot of reviews on Salt and Sanctuary, and it seemed like something I should stay away from.
I played it, and it was okay. It was basically it's like literally Dark Souls.
This game feels like so much its own thing that you kind of have to step away and think about the mechanics before you understand how much it borrowed from Dark Souls, because they owned it. Like they didn't It's not obviously like it's not like it doesn't feel haphazard or shoehorned. It very much feels like its own game.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Well, I bought it, so I'm actually very excited to play it.
Okay. The first
I'll probably give that
a
play during break.
The first hour or so, or 2 hours or something like that, is good. But once you get to the second or third main area is when the game like really starts to open up. The backgrounds really start to get beautiful. You start to like get some real lore. That's when the game really takes off.
Well, I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Good.
And it better be the best game I've ever played. So my turn. Yeah?
No.
You're right. Hank, you want to turn? Does Theresa want to turn?
I'm on a podcast.
So, all right, my game. So I've got 2 games I want to talk about. The first one, both Joe and I played. And I beat, and Joe is pretty close to beating, I think. And that was the Sony Interactive Studios published, yeah. Insomniac Games produced Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 4. Joe,
and
this game is outstanding.
Spider-Man is actually a character that existed outside of the game, right? He was in like comic books, or
may he rest in peace.
Is that no? Spider-Man didn't die, Tony. That was Stanley.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so Spider-Man is indeed a character that existed in comic books outside of this video game. But this video game is it is 100% the best superhero game I've ever played.
Better than Arkham Asylum.
Yes. I liked Arkham Asylum. And I beat it. This pulled me in much harder. Once you get used to how the swinging mechanic works, it's like, man, it's the only game I've ever played where I'm like, I'd rather like take the long way than fast travel.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I found myself doing that a lot too. And just to let you know where I am without getting into spoilers, I just got to the point where the real main villain like revealed himself.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how much further I have to go. I imagine I'm quite a bit.
Well, when you told me about the whatever it is that you called that group of people.
Yeah.
That group of people, when you told me about that, you're not that. I mean, once that happens, you're pretty much there.
Oh,
there's
really?
not much left to go. Yeah, there's not much left to go.
Oh, wow. For that. Okay, I'm closer than I thought. Yeah, I'll try to wrap it up soon then.
But yeah, so just, man, things that impressed me about the game right off the bat, voice acting.
Oh, yeah,
outrageous. Extremely well done. And on top of that, this game has the absolute 100% best facial animations I've seen in a video game ever.
Oh, really? Even compared to like Uncharted 4?
I was blown. I think this is like the next level. I think it's just like a little bit better. Like it just felt so real always. Like I was like, I really believe, because you know how it is. It's almost like sometimes video games, it has like the kind of like Japanese kung fu movie thing where it's like the mouth is moving, sort of what is supposed to be being said, you know?
Yeah.
But I just love it. I love the fighting mechanic. I think that the fighting was really fun. There was a lot of stuff to do, a lot of abilities to have, like a lot of ways you could, defeat enemies. The challenge was there, I felt like.
Once you start to open up the ability tree, it's the fights get a lot more fun.
They do. And just all the enemies, man, just the enemies they bring in and just, the character development, like how Doc Ock develops is, for me, that's probably one of my favorite character developments, I think, in a while.
Yeah, they did a good job with it.
To see how
they had to, because once you realize he's working for Dr. Octavius, like you know where it's going. But they still make it like an enjoyable journey, which I appreciate it.
They do, man. And just like his relationship, Peter Parker's relationship with Doc Ock is it's so awesome. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that game a lot. And I think that is another game that is well worth people's time and energy to go be a part of.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun just to swing around that city in that game. But a word of warning, like you could spend the first 20 hours of that game without advancing through the first 5 hours of the story if you wanted to, if that makes sense. Like there's so much side quest stuff
just doing
to do.
All the extra side stuff.
You shouldn't do that at the beginning. You should play, because the game opens up and like changes so much during the course of like the first 5 hours of story or something like that.
Yeah.
That you should push through that before you start doing side stuff.
Well, where you're at, the game really changes.
Right, yeah. That's
which I think is really, I love it when games do that.
Yeah, I do too.
So yeah, guys, Spider-Man, go play it. Insomniac Games, and we know Insomniac Games did things like Spyro, which they just released the Spyro Reignited trilogy or whatever. So they did Spyro, and they did the Resistance series, which I've not played one of those games. I don't know if you've played any of those games.
No.
And then they also did Ratchet and Clank.
Nice, which I remember.
So this is definitely a departure for them.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, Spider-Man, Insomniac, developed by Insomniac, published by Sony Interactive. Really great game. And then my other game that I just got yesterday is, guys, I picked up Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu.
And how is that? How is it and what is it? Because I haven't been able to figure out exactly what the hell that game is.
Okay. So I love it. I really love the game. It is... Now, and I don't know, I'm trying to... I say that with a caveat. And the caveat is, I don't know how much of my love for the game is this kind of bath of nostalgia that I'm in because we're going back to Kanto. So did you play the original Pokemon game?
I played Red, I think.
Yeah, okay. So it's in Kanto. It's in that region. So it's basically like you're playing through the game again, in an updated world. You know what? I think the game came out in 97, so we're talking about 20 years later.
Yeah, jeez.
So some things are different. So imagine, did you ever play Pokemon Go, Joe?
Like a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan, but I tried it out.
Okay, so it's that. So the way that you're not actually fighting Pokemon, you're capturing them with Pokeballs.
You don't fight?
Oh, no, you do. But you don't fight Pokemon in the wild. You fight trainers and gym leaders.
Oh, so to capture, you never try to attack them?
No, you just throw Pokeballs. And you have berries that you can use to calm them down or distract them so that you can capture them with Pokeballs.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I didn't know how I'd feel either. That was my also same reaction. And then I checked out a review before I bought it. And I was like, man, the review's pretty good. And so I bought the game, and it's great. And I think that it makes the grind fun, and you don't have to worry about oh man, I'm in this cave and all my Pokemon are dead, or I have to conserve my PP for the trainer battles. It makes it makes it a little bit more fun in that way. And what I actually really like about the system is so because you're not battling a Pokemon, when you catch one Pokemon, all of the Pokemon in your party get experience.
Okay.
Which is really great because that is the part that I hated about the original game.
Switching out Pokemon just so you can keep them all leveling at roughly the same rate.
Right.
Yeah. I remember having to juggle that. And I haven't played a lot of Pokemon outside of that first generation. I've dabbled in it, but the first games were the only ones that I played through until the end. The others that I've played, I've just kind of dabbled in it or played 15 or 20 hours or something.
It's the same for me for sure. But yeah, there's some really cool things. I also I got the special edition, so I got the Pokeball Plus controller.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a Pokeball with a joystick in it, and that's what you use, and you can click the joystick, and there's a button on the top.
Do you think does it make it more fun to?
Yeah, it does, and so it's like when you're doing you do the flick motion with the Pokeball, and it throws it on screen so that you can capture the Pokemon.
Gotcha.
So it's really cool. The thing that's a little annoying about it is because it's a ball, sometimes you have to be, in terms of the orientation of the controller, it has to be perfect so that when you press the up joystick, it's actually moving up.
Right.
So that, and because the Joy-Con of the Switch has the shape that it has, always know where up is. And so that can be a little annoying. The other thing that's a little annoying with the Pokeball thing is that sometimes because of the way it's round and because when I click it, I'll also be pushing it in a direction. And so it'll move to something else and click that. And I'm like, oh God. And it happens probably once a minute.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Which is a little annoying. And I can't tell if that's bad design on the controller or if it's just going to take me getting used to it. I haven't figured that out yet. But the other thing cool about the Pokeball Plus is that in the game, you can put a Pokemon in your Pokeball Plus. And then when you leave your house, you can walk around and it calculates the amount of steps you take and it converts that to experience so you can level up Pokemon outside of the game while you're walking around, which is a really cool thing.
Yeah. Do you get overpowered from that though?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. But I leveled up like a Spearow 8 levels today by walking around this beer festival.
Huh.
With a Pokeball in my pocket.
Interesting.
So I don't know. It's really cool. And the trainer battles are really cool. And there's a lot of them, which is fun. The grind is a little bit more tolerable because you're getting experience for everybody when you're catching Pokemon. The big worry I had at the beginning, actually, was the economy of the game in terms of, the Pokeballs are the same price as they were in the original game. But Pokeballs are what you're using to defeat enemies, to gain experience, to grind. So if you're in a battle, you're using a Pokeball every battle. So 10 battles, that's 10 Pokeballs, that's $1,000.
Yeah, geez.
So, but they do a good job of giving you enough Pokeballs that you don't have to really buy them a bunch. Every time you beat trainers, you get Pokeballs. So they did it. At first, I was really worried about that because when I bought my first set of Pokeballs, I hadn't really done training, like fought trainers, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like, how are we gonna sustain the game economy this way?" And it turns out they do a good job of keeping it balanced in terms of what you have to buy and what you receive for free.
Nice.
So it's a lot of fun. I've already got 3 gym badges, which I'm really excited about. I can't stop playing it. It's worth it. It's worth it even for grown people. If you played Pokemon at any point, it's going to be so fun. It's going to be fun. Like that nostalgia will be there. It's a fun game.
It's not the same.
A good time, man.
It's not the same story as Red and Blue, is it?
Okay, that is where I can't answer that question yet because I don't know because it seemed
like are Misty and Brock your first 2 gym fights?
Oh yeah, that's all the same. Yeah, because that's specific to the region, not the story.
Yeah.
All the gym leaders are the same, and it seems to be like you still go to the SS Anne and stuff like that. But what makes that question hard for me to answer is that you remember how like in the original game when it went to name your rival, you could name him Blue.
Yeah.
So like in this game, you get your rival, but he's like real nice to you. Like he's like super nice, and he's not like the bad guy or whatever. The rival in the original series. And then at some point, you meet somebody named Blue who looks like that rival and says the shit to you that he says in the original game. So I'm like, okay, maybe that this is taking place simultaneous to that game.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
So I'm not really sure how it fits in the timeline. I don't want to look it up yet because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. So I'm just playing through it and seeing if that kind of reveals itself, like if you run into Ash.
Okay.
Because how cool would it be if Ash Ketchum was like the final guy in the game?
Oh, that'd be weird.
I think it'd be super cool. But it's great, man. It's really cute. It's done really well. It's pretty to look at. I love it. I'm really pleased with that game. They did a great job.
Okay, good.
And that takes us to our next section, which is called
Video Game News, where we talk about the video game news.
So, Joe, I think I will go first. And my piece of video game news is that Netflix has purchased a Devil May Cry anime series.
Well, they're going to start making one, right?
Well, but they purchased the rights or whatever.
Okay, cool.
Right, and so that now they're gonna make one, and it's going to be made by the same people who developed the Castlevania anime series, which we both really like.
Yeah. I've watched season 1. I really enjoyed it. I still need to start season 2.
I watched the first episode of season 2 and really loved it. But I'm really, really excited about it because I remember Devil May Cry, the original Devil May Cry game, is one of the first games I had on my PS2.
And have you played all of them?
I've beaten 1 and 2. I played a little bit of 3 and not beaten it, and then I've not played 4. But also there is Devil May Cry 5, which is scheduled to release in 2019.
I was going to say, yeah, there's a new one coming out.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it seems like these the hype train there. It's they're using kind of that marketing excitement of the anime series in the game to hopefully to generate some traction. But I'm really excited about it. I think that Dante is such a cool character.
Yeah, since I haven't played any Devil May Cry, I don't know. Like I don't know how much story there is there.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that it's going to be good. I think that it's a really cool tale that he's like half demon, half human, and the house that pool all the time. And if it's anything like Castlevania, I think it'll be done really, really, really well. So I'm excited about it. So that's my video game news: is Devil May Cry, the Netflix anime series, is on its way.
Well, my video game news is something that happens every year around this time, but the PSN sale is live right now, and there are some really cool deals. The coolest one is that $20 off the PlayStation Plus renewal, which I'll probably take advantage of tonight. You can renew PS Plus for a year for $40. All the Final Fantasy games are on sale, which you and I have talked about that. I haven't played. I've never beaten any of them, or I had never beaten any of them until we played through Final Fantasy VI. That's why I'm looking at picking up some of those cheap to play the others. Yeah, that's right. Wolfenstein 2
so
is like $20.
What Final Fantasy are on sale and how much? What are the sales on that?
I think it's literally any of them that are on a PlayStation platform. Like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So
absolutely. Even on the Vita, they're on sale.
Yep, even on the Vita.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I was looking through the sales, and there are some really good sales, man.
Yeah.
Like, not just that.
Wolfenstein 2 is only $20, and I really wanted to get to that one.
Wolfenstein 2 is on sale from $60 to $20.
Yeah, I liked Wolfenstein 1 a lot. Wolfenstein the New Order, not Wolfenstein. When you say Wolfenstein 1, you have to
I have not played I have not played a Wolfenstein game ever.
The New Order is extremely good.
Is it?
You might want to grab the New Order before you play the second one, the New Colossus. Yeah. It's not what you'd expect it to be. It's worth picking up.
It's even like Red Dead. Like,
you have to get the special edition though. It's not like you can get it for less than $60, which was a non-starter for me. What am I going to get with a digital special edition of Red Dead Redemption that's going to be worth that to me? Like, I don't
Sure.
know. Lots of deals on the PlayStation Store. I hope the eShop follows suit soon because there's like some Switch stuff I'd like to pick up too.
They better.
But yeah.
All right, so that is video game news, and now on to our third section,
The Grind, where we talk about how we're hopefully leveling up in life.
So Joe, go ahead and lead us off in The Grind.
I am trying to cook more. And as I cook more, I realize that I actually don't know much about how to cook. So I picked up a book called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which really aims to teach more like the whys of cooking than just like recipes. It's not a recipe book. It's a
here are the fundamental have a lot of recipes in it.
Right. But it's a here are the fundamental elements of cooking and the reasons behind them. And some history too. And they talk about a lot of stuff that I imagine anybody who cooks a lot would know, but I just don't because I haven't been cooking, about like different kinds of salt, the 5 fundamental tasting elements. Just really cool stuff. I'm only in the first section. Like I'm on the salt section of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat right now. Yes. And I'm already learning a ton.
That book is amazing.
Yeah, Tony's read this as well. And you finished it already, right?
No, I finished the first 2 sections, Salt and Fat. And the reason I bought it is because I first saw on Netflix there is an accompanying documentary.
Yeah, I watched some of the first episode of that.
But the information presented in the book and the documentary are very different. So it's not like you're going to, if you watch the documentary, you're not going to really get anything from that they, Yeah,
the documentary is more like a food tourism thing than a...
it is. It is in terms of culture and food
But it's really cool. It's still worth a watch.
It's really, really good. And it's a good way for me to, I think, supplement the material. But yeah, Joe, that book is changing already changing my cooking a lot. Like,
it's already got me thinking about like what kind of salt I'm adding, the point in the cooking process or before when I'm adding it. Just stuff that I wouldn't get before.
Yeah, things you wouldn't think about, like salting your meat the day before you cook it.
Yeah, because apparently it's like actually breaking down and causing some chemical changes at the protein level. Yeah, there's all kinds of interesting stuff in there that you don't think about, but other cooks might know. Whether or not they know the science behind it, they just know it because they're taught to do that to get a better taste out of what they're cooking.
Right. It's so good. It is. Yeah, and one of the things I did, like, for example, like you're supposed to salt like pasta water, and I would normally just salt it just enough, or whatever. But she's like, no, it has to be like seawater.
Yeah, I haven't tried cooking my pasta, and I haven't gotten to that part yet where she says to do that. I saw that she mentioned salting water that you're boiling vegetables in to get the taste that way. But what's the advantage of making your pasta water that salty?
That's how you infuse flavor.
Okay, it's for flavoring the pasta. I think you lower the boiling.
Yeah, because
you do that too, which is a side bonus. But you're doing that to get to actually get the water into the pasta and get the flavor inside.
Right, because what salt does is like it brings out the natural inherent flavor in anything.
Right.
And so I did it yesterday. I homemade pasta yesterday, and I salted the water. I tasted the water. It was super salty. I was like, oh my God. And then that pasta, when I ate it, my God. It was the best tasting pasta I'd ever made. Huge difference. I can't even describe it to you.
And it didn't taste overly salty.
It didn't, not at all. It just tasted flavor. Like I tasted more like pasta.
Yeah.
You know what
she
I mean?
talks a lot about salt's ability to bring out flavors other than, because salt is a flavor in itself. Like I think that's one of the things that we have taste receptors specifically for, but it's also able to make other tastes more strong. She had an example about polenta, I think was the one that she used, where when she was learning to make polenta, she would always,
she's a cook.
Yeah, she was when she started cooking, she would always undersalt it, and she never understood how to get the taste that she wanted out of it. And the answer was just to add more salt, which blew her mind because she didn't want it to taste more salty. She wanted it to taste more like polenta, but the answer to do it was to add more salt.
Right, and but she also tells a story about how like it's not just add more salt. It was like she was like that guy added a handful of salt.
Right.
And so it was that we just way under salt, and how much sometimes like you just never know how much salt you actually need, to be successful in terms of salting.
Like I'm reading this and I feel like I'm getting some good stuff about making food taste good, but health wise, I wonder.
Well, she addresses that a little bit.
Yeah, she said that anything you salt that you're home cooking, you're probably still gonna be better off than like what's added for things that need to be preserved for like processed foods. And I hope that that's true, but I'm going to do a little more reading.
Yeah, I would too. But I mean, she definitely seems like she's done her research and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think the big problem, like with our health in the country, is not salt as much as it is the amount of sodium that's in things because of like the processed garbage. You know, like we just have we consume a lot of processed trash. And if all we did was cook at home and use salt to salt our food, I bet that we would not have a salt problem. In fact, sometimes I think we'd have a salt shortage, like we'd be lacking in that mineral, you know. But that's just, I mean, that's come from like I've really tried to eat healthy and do stuff like that, and so like I went to the cardiologist one time and I had like been really not eating a lot of salt, and my cardiologist was like, dude, you need to put salt in your diet ASAP. Like he is like, you have to salt your food way more than you're salting it. And that's because I had heard that it was like, yeah, because you just always hear just generally like salt is bad for you and whatever, and that is just and unfortunately I think that we've taken that out of context a little bit.
And when you do things like salt pasta water, most of that salt is going to go away when you drain the pasta.
Right. But again, the other thing is that like if you're eating a lot out, if you're eating out a lot and you're consuming a lot of garbage, then that's what's going to happen. You're gonna have too much salt in your diet. But like for me, I was almost never eating out at some point, and so the only salt I was getting is what I was putting in my food, and so that was not enough. So yeah, it's a great book. And I do think you're right. I think we need to study salt a little bit more as a people. But it's hard to study it just because God, I mean, there's so much garbage in so much of the food we consume that's processed, But
yeah, that's my item. Great.
Yeah, and my item is similar. So I saw a documentary. So the guy who writes the foreword for that book, Michael Pollan, he has a series on Netflix called Cooked, and it talks about like it's like the four elements, like earth, air, water, and fire, I think, and how those elements have shaped cooking and shaped the way we consume food or whatever. And he talks about, like, I love bread a lot. Like, I'm a big fan of the bread. He was talking about air, I think was one of it. And so he was interviewing some guy who made sourdough, like in the traditional way that sourdough is made. And the guy is talking about how like it's so nutritious for you, you could survive on mostly sourdough, like for your life, because of the way that it's made in terms of like from start to finish. Because the bread that we consume from the stores basically has been completely stripped of every nutrient possible, right? And so the way that you make sourdough, like traditional sourdough, is you make a starter, and so you take like yeast or you take flour and water. and you turn it into a culture, and you're basically fermenting this flour and water. And what that does is it cultivates the natural yeast inside of flour, and then you use that instead of baker's yeast to make your bread. And so one of the big things is like it's like I think it's like lactobacillic acid, which is the acid that's produced there, which fights like a lot of the bread that we have has an acid called like phytic acid, which is basically that phytic acid prevents you from absorbing nutrients. And it prevents the bread like from your body from absorbing nutrients. And so the acid in the sourdough starter fights that acid. And so like you're absorbing a lot more healthy nutrients from that bread, which is wild. And it's delicious. So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to learn how to make sourdough bread from scratch. And you can use it for anything. You can make sourdough pizza dough. You can make, sourdough baguettes. You can make sourdough English muffin. You know what I mean?
How long does the process take?
From soup to nuts, it can take anywhere from like 7 days to like 3 weeks.
Okay.
To do the starter. But once you've developed the starter, it's developed. Like there's no more developing the starter.
Yeah.
You just have to be monitoring it and feeding it.
Like ever? Or
Yeah. So basically you're once it's started, then all you're doing is monitoring it and feeding it. So like every couple of days or depending on when you use it, you're gonna like to keep it healthy, you're going to put flour and water in there and then dump out half of it just to keep it fresh.
And that's it.
Keep it. Yep. And then when you use it, you replace it. And you're only using like a couple of ounces when you make bread.
Oh, wow.
So it's wild, man. It's a really cool process. I feel like I've learned a lot about kind of chemistry and a lot about.
Can you just bake it straight in your oven? You don't need a special oven or anything to bake it.
The sourdough?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you should make it on a cookie sheet. Doesn't matter.
Nice.
So it's really cool, man. So that's.
I hope that comes out well.
I do too, man. I don't know. I think it's for me. You know how I am, like with the cooking and stuff. The more I can make from scratch, the better I feel about my health and my life and all those things. And I think it's impressive. Like you have friends over, and it's like, hey, you want bread? Cool. I'm going to make it right now.
It's a good party trick.
So I'm into that. It is a cool party trick, and just from what I understand from friends that do it, it's like the best bread that they've ever had. So yeah, homemade sourdough, salt, fat, acid, and heat. So me and Joe are we're getting real good at the cookery.
He said salt, fat, ass, and heat. The first time. That's the name of your new single.
Salt, fat, ass, and heat.
Yeah. It's a banger.
It's a banger. It's a real bop, as the kids would say.
Oh, man.
So, all right. The grind. So, guys, now what we're all here for, the Kingdom Hearts. Shall we talk about it?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Special interview with someone very special to Joe.
I'm back. So, did you play the Kingdom Hearts?
I did play the Kingdom Hearts.
Do you like it?
I do like the Kingdom Hearts very much.
Why?
Because for me, I like Disney. Like I'm a Disney person, which sounds really cool for a grown man to say. But also because I love Final Fantasy, and so that is like I love that game a lot. And so when they put those two things together, I'm like, this is pretty cool.
When you play Final Fantasy, do you listen to Mariah Carey Fantasy?
No, absolutely not. The only song I know by Mariah Carey is "All I Want for Christmas Is You." I wasn't aware that she had other music.
That's such a good one.
I know. It's the only one as far as I'm concerned. Like I don't know what anybody else is listening to. Like what are her other songs? She has no other songs. Just "All I Want for Christmas Is You."
I think you actually might like listening to fantasy though.
But only in the context of Final Fantasy, or in any context, period?
Only in the context of Final Fantasy.
All right.
That could be a whole different topic for a whole other podcast.
100%. Is that what Joe listens to? That's what he listens to when he plays Final Fantasy, isn't it?
What do you listen to when you play Final Fantasy?
I don't listen to music.
You listen to Murder.
Stop that.
He listens to Fantasy by Mariah Carey. We just that's what we determined.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a real banger.
Yeah.
So, how does Theresa really feel about Kingdom Hearts.
Theresa had some words about Kingdom Hearts when she was watching it.
What did I say?
You said this is the dumbest I've ever seen. I think is your exact words.
All right, so should we actually talk about Kingdom Hearts?
We should, yeah.
And now, what you've all really been waiting for, especially that one guy in the Discord server.
This is our first game after Final Fantasy VI.
It is.
Once again, this is one that Tony, you've played like the entire series, right?
I have played 1 and 2, and I've played Recoded. I've not played all of the offshoots. But yeah, this is one that I was
going to say there's a lot of Kingdom Hearts out there, and I really don't know what's what, but this is the very first game that we're playing. Kingdom Hearts, originally released on the PlayStation 2.
Yes.
I think in 2002?
2002.
Something like that. 2002, yep. Okay.
And this was right before the Squaresoft Enix merger. Because originally,
interesting.
Yeah, Enix thought that they didn't want to merge with Squaresoft because they weren't doing super well. I can't remember what the Final Fantasy that had just come out was, but after the release of Kingdom Hearts, because it was so well accepted that kind of like put the final thing in there, and the merger was in 2003. When it turned from Squaresoft to Square Enix. Which is really cool. So part of the reason of that merger was the success of Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. And so the director of Kingdom Hearts is Tetsuya Nomura. And he is very closely related to the last game that we played on this podcast, Final Fantasy VI. He was the graphic designer for Final Fantasy VI, and he created and wrote the backstories for Shadow and Setzer.
Very nice.
And he actually got to start designing he was the monster designer for Final Fantasy V. And then he went on to be big parts of become the director of like Final Fantasy 7 might have been his first one. I can't remember. He was the director of Final Fantasy 15 and then left that role.
Right. And we missed it in news, but the guy who was responsible for Final Fantasy 15 as it released just left Square Enix.
Yes, and they canceled They canceled the DLC, right?
Yeah, I heard about that. Which is too bad because I was curious to see what they were going to do.
Yeah, honestly, I loved that game. I did not play one of the DLCs.
Neither have I. No.
Okay.
I was still curious to see what they would have been, but no, I haven't played any of them either.
Because there's like 4 out already, right? Or 3?
Yeah, I think there's one for each one of your like
main companions.
Guy traveling companions.
And so the music person who wrote the music, I think is really cool. It's Yoko Shimomura, and some of the big things she's done is I think I don't remember if we talked about this game specifically, Joe, but we talked about the series that is Xenoblade. She wrote music for Xenoblade Chronicles.
Nice.
And then she also composed a lot of the classical material in Final Fantasy 15.
Okay, good.
So just really cool. She's done a lot of really cool stuff, and I liked a lot of the stuff she composed for 15. But yeah, so let's jump in. You want to jump into the actual game?
Let's do it, yeah. And as I was saying before, for context, we're both playing on Proud Mode.
What is Proud Mode?
Think much of. Proud Mode is the hard mode for this game, and I didn't think much of it when we jumped in because this is like the aesthetic of this game is Disney, so it's very childish. So I really didn't expect much difficulty-wise out of this game, and that was a mistake because this is essentially Dark Souls for kids.
The first time you told me that, I almost peed myself. And you're freaking right, man. It is 100% Dark Souls for kids.
It's tough. Like right off the bat, when you have the option to fight those 3 Final Fantasy characters on Destiny Island at the same time, I played that. So I got obsessed with beating that, and I had the hardest time. It took me forever to get past that on Proud Mode.
Me too.
But yeah, it's a tough game. It's really tough. They've got a parry mechanic that requires you to be really precise with your timing to do it well. And it's really important for some boss fights. And I still haven't gotten it down as well as I could have.
It's hard. I think there's a little bit of like you can sort of, I mean, it does. What I do like about the parry mechanic, this is how we're jumping in. But what I do like about the parry mechanic is that it does a little bit reward aggressive playing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's good. I think that's a good mechanic to have.
Too.
It's just really difficult to land.
It is. I land it more on accident than I do on purpose. We'll go with that.
That's how I feel. That's where I feel like I'm at now. But I hope I get better as time goes on.
Yeah. And we'll talk about why that fight is particularly... I think that fight is particularly difficult for many reasons. And
but we'll start from the beginning before we jump into like specifics of certain fights. This game opens with like a weird dream sequence.
Yes.
With some voiceover, like some really
ethereal,
like really maybe. Yeah, just a lot of foreshadowing,
obscure.
Like, hey, stuff's about to get real bad. Like references to darkness and stuff. You kind of go through a dream sequence at the beginning where you're standing on like these platforms that are like stained glass window representations of different Disney universes
and characters. It's the princesses. So it's like Snow White, I think, is in there. I know Aurora is in there. Cinderella, maybe.
Cinderella, I think. Yeah. But it's really cool. The whole aesthetic is really nice, and then you get like an introduction to the battle system, and then you wind up in these situations where you're making decisions that I guess determine like what your abilities are in the game.
Yeah, so we can talk about that. So the first decision they make you make is you're picking between the sword, the staff, and the shield. And so basically what you're affecting is what you're affecting when you pick these mechanics, or when you're figuring out what you want to do, what you're affecting is a couple of things. You're affecting your defense. You're affecting the maximum number of items that Sora can hold. And you're also affecting the maximum amount of AP that Sora can have. And AP being the thing, like when you get abilities, you assign AP to that, or like you assign them to Sora or whatever, and each ability costs a certain amount of AP. But so that's what that affects. And so I did do research here because I obviously, because we're in proud mode, I felt like I needed all the help I could get. So what I went with, what did you go with? What did you pick, Joe? Did you pick you said you picked the staff?
I did, yeah.
And what did you sacrifice?
The sword, I think.
Okay. I picked the shield, and I sacrificed the sword. And what that does is it gives you the maximum amount of items that you can have, and the maximum amount of AP natural AP that you can acquire.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, okay. And so like your stats can be modified with items and stuff, but you cannot modify max items. Like there's nothing you can do to change that.
Right.
So that's what you get. Period. So I like that mechanic. I think it's cool. What I don't think is cool is you have no idea what you're picking unless you do research.
No, they give you no indication.
Yeah.
Which shoot. You don't. Not only do they give you no indication before you choose, you also get no indication after you choose. There's no feedback that tells you, hey, the stats as you see them right now exist because of the choice you made.
Right.
You have no idea. You would have to go and look at a guide to figure out what the hell happened or why.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't think it adds much. I didn't think it was, like, as a mechanic, I didn't think it was cool. I didn't think it added much. I would rather like know up front what I'm trying to like choose.
Sure.
Especially if like you know what your play style is likely to be. I really wish that they had given you some kind of chance to choose, but I didn't look at a guide. I just picked based on like either a whim or like what I hoped it would affect.
Okay. Well, I mean, well, you definitely when you get Well, I mean, the base stat, like you understand what you're getting. So if you pick the staff, then you understand that your magic stat is going to be higher, and you're sacrificing the sword, so that whatever is going to be lower. That's there. What they don't give you any indication about is how it affects your items and AP.
Right.
Which is especially because you can't like modify the amount of items you can hold.
Yeah. Right, and you can only use items that you're holding in a fight.
Correct.
Items that are in your stock are completely unavailable to you, which is different than a lot of other RPGs.
And I wonder why they would make that decision.
I don't know.
But yes.
But anyways, you fight a little tutorial boss fight, and then you wake up.
Which you can lose that fight, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't go that way. I wound up beating it. It's not hard. I think you would have to, even on proud mode, you'd have to work pretty hard to lose that one.
Yeah, but I mean, you did lose the tutorial fight against Vargas, so there's that.
Which one is Vargas?
In Final Fantasy VI, you remember?
Oh yeah. I kept. I didn't realize you had to press. Yeah. I kept pressing a button too early, and then I just died.
Call back.
That one you're not supposed to lose. They'll just start you over at the save point. That was so dumb.
Oh yeah, this one you can lose, and it'll just send you back into. You'll end up waking up at Destiny Islands anyway.
But you wake up on Destiny Island. You figure out this is where your main character, Sora, who you've been playing as, lives. He lives there with two other kids who are his friends, and then a bunch of Final Fantasy characters.
Yes.
There's not a lot of context around why these people are there. Sora obviously has, he at least has a house and a mom on this island.
Yes.
But like he talks to his friend Kairi, and you find out that she doesn't even remember where she grew up or what her hometown was.
Yes.
And that seems like a weird thing to gloss over. It's also never really understood why you have friends who are also Final Fantasy characters there. That's never addressed directly.
Yeah.
The whole thing is like kind of surreal and dreamlike, and I don't know if that's intentional.
I feel like it is intentional.
No, just all your conversations are really, even with your friends, are really weird, where they talk about like going to different worlds as if it's a thing like that kids usually want to do.
Well, I think that Riku has that kind of natural curiosity, and he does say that he doesn't develop, like, that curiosity didn't seem to develop until Kairi showed up from another world.
How do you know Kairi showed up from another world?
Well, because she says she doesn't know where she's from. I guess I assumed.
Yeah, she refers to it as her home. She doesn't know where her hometown is.
Oh.
They never really say that she's from another world. Are you spoiling something for me?
No. Because that's what.
Okay.
That's because Riku says that in the beginning of the game. He's like he says something like he wasn't when Kairi shows up. He says that's when he became interested in other worlds.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
He says that in very like super early on.
Okay, I didn't remember that.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident about that. I mean, now I'm starting to doubt myself, but I do feel pretty confident about that.
I believe you. I just don't remember that. But yeah, the whole thing is really, really surreal.
Yeah, and the question I had was, is it a dream? Like, was that whole sequence a dream?
I don't know.
Me either.
Yeah, I mean, if that was a dream, then what was real?
Right, but he feels like it's so real. I don't know. It's interesting. One thing that we glossed over before you actually wake up in the Destiny Islands.
Tony was
what?
Was what a dream?
That whole business with the tutorial stuff.
Oh yeah, that I think it was,
because he even he questions it. Like even he is like, was that? He's like, that was it? Something we glossed over too. Another mechanic that is kind of similar to the sword thing, where they don't really explain anything to you, is the whole thing with you do talk to those Final Fantasy characters during that awakening tutorial,
and they have some more questions
right?
For you. Yeah.
And the way that those questions affect the game is. There's like three options. There's a top option, a middle option, and a bottom option. And the top option, it's if you pick mostly top option, then you will level really quickly at the beginning of the game. And then once you hit 50, the leveling pace slows down a lot. If you pick the middle option, then you're leveling evenly throughout the whole game. And if you pick the last option, then you are leveling mostly, you level slowly during the beginning of the game and quickly during the end of the game.
And I don't get why that's something that you would do.
I think it depends on your play style and what it is that you're going to do. So like there's plenty of like side stuff and like there's some good fair amount of optional bosses and stuff that if you have no intention of completing and you just want to finish the game, the story part of the game, then I would see why you would pick the first option, because then you're going to level quickly to 50. You're not going to have to worry about grinding. You'll finish the game. You'll be done. You know what I mean? Now, why would you want to level slow in the beginning and quick at the end? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's the same kind of idea of like, well, you're going to get through the first part.
What I meant.
Go ahead.
No, what I meant was I do not understand why you would make that something that you would configure with questions why you would make it configurable but completely hidden. If that makes sense. Like, I don't understand why you would ask people questions that they wouldn't be able to associate with those options and then just lock them in like that. I do not understand why you would make that gameplay decision.
I don't either. But yeah, no, it's a weird mechanic. And again, it's not so much weird that it's a thing as it is, why would you not explain it?
Yeah.
Like, why not just tell us this is what's happening? Find a way to communicate that to us. Because if you have no idea, then all of a sudden, like your beginning game grind is really frustrating, and you're leveling slow.
And I can't even remember which questions I picked, so I don't know which situation I'm in.
Oh yeah, and I don't know how you would find that out later.
I don't think you can. Yeah, so I don't know.
Definitely some interesting choices that they have made, and as far as that process goes. So yeah, so you wake up on Destiny Islands, and you meet Kairi and Riku, who are your best friends.
Right. Yeah. Once again, it's this really surreal thing where you live on this island. You don't know how long they've been there or if everyone has grown up there. I guess you do find out that Kyrie came from somewhere else, but she refers to her where she came from as a hometown that she can't remember, I think. But they really want to go find out if there are other worlds, and their plan for that is just to take a raft and sail out into the ocean.
So
your first little bits of gameplay are finding it's a very like little kid thing.
Yeah, which I think makes it believable.
You're trying to find and you're trying to find pieces for the raft. Like that's your first little bit of gameplay on this island. That and like optional little fights that you can have, like training rounds against Final Fantasy characters.
Yeah, specifically characters from Final Fantasy 10
right?
And 8.
Right.
And
8.
Yeah,
okay.
Selphie.
That's right.
Selphie's from Final Fantasy 8. So you fight Tidus, and you fight Waka, and you fight Selphie from Final Fantasy 8. The most frustrating one to me was, well, it's either Waka or Selphie.
I was fine with all of those. It was fighting all three of them at once that was the real nightmare.
Yeah, and I think what makes I think Waka is the one that makes that fight so difficult.
Yeah,
because he's like launching the balls at you.
You can tech his ball back at him, which I didn't get at first. If you target him and then tech the ball when it comes back, you can knock it back at him and stun him for a little bit.
Yeah, you can. However, it's hard to do that when you're like trying to fight like the close combat threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ones who are chasing you the entire time. Yeah.
But yeah, it took me about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah, something
to beat that part of the game. But it was frustrating, and I didn't want to let it go.
No, neither did I. I stuck with it, even though it took me way too long.
But it definitely that felt like Dark Souls to me. But yeah, so you're on the island. You're searching for boat stuff. You're being a little kid with your friends. There's a little bit of hinting at Sora having a thing for Kyrie.
Yeah. There's this little conversation about a fruit.
The Pao Pu
people
fruit?
Eat from it, their destinies. Yeah, their destinies are linked. He never does eat. He doesn't eat from it while he's there. It's just brought up.
Right.
There's like both Kyrie and what's the other guy's name? Riku. Yeah. There are these two scenes where they both say like weird things to them. What is it? Oh yeah, where Riku, when they're about to race, he says, "If I win, I get to share the Pao Pu fruit with Kyrie." And then Sora asks him he says, "Wait, what do you mean?" And then he says, "Just kidding." And then later Sora's talking with Kyrie and she says, "Hey, let's take the boat and leave right now before Riku wakes up." And then she says, "No, I'm just kidding."
What is she though?
These really surreal. I don't know. There are just these really surreal exchanges,
which I think is part of it. I definitely think that's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think that's intentional.
And then Kyrie also mentions that Riku has changed, and Sora doesn't seem to understand what she's talking about. Which I guess it makes more sense when you have these weird interactions with him later on. I imagine these two kids come back, but like towards the end of the section that we're going to get to, I shouldn't talk about that yet. We haven't gotten to that point. No, this whole section is just really even his interactions with these kids are just really surreal and dreamlike. And maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not. I don't know. But either way, you get the raft built, you go to bed. Sora goes to bed in his house where his mom asks him to come to dinner, which is weird because it feels like they're on the island by themselves until he winds up in a house somewhere.
Yeah, and I think it's that island that they're on is like kind of like their play place, and so like they actually live on a different island, which is why they have the boats to get there.
Yeah, it's called the Destiny Islands.
Yeah,
and we should mention before he goes to bed, you wind up in a cave where this weird hooded figure next to a door. Yeah, he shows up and says that he's come to see the door, even though it's not open yet. And he mentions that the world has been connected to others somehow, and that it's about to go down, basically.
Right, and that Sora doesn't know anything.
And he doesn't, because Sora, nobody knows what this guy's talking about.
But there's the whole thematic element of the beginning of everything that they're setting up is like doors and open and close and darkness and light. Like that's the thematic material that we're dealing with.
Yeah,
is doors opening and closing, darkness, and the like. So they build the raft. Sora wakes up, and all hell has broken loose on the Destiny Islands.
Yeah. He can he see like the big
the big
sky at that
point?
Like
the black hole thing.
Yeah, like a black hole or a vacuum or something is just sucking things into it, and you run out to check the boat.
He finds the crazy void, and he also he gets attacked by Heartless.
Right. Yeah, which are they'll become like the ever-present enemies in the game, but they show up and start attacking him. And does he have a Keyblade?
No, he has that toy wooden sword now.
That's right, yeah.
Which absolutely does no damage against the Heartless. And so eventually he finds Riku and that little islandy thing that you can fight him on.
Yeah, that's right. And you have that weird exchange with him where he's like obviously really drawn towards this void.
Yeah, and he's saying things like the door is open.
Yeah, the door's open. It's basically their time to go see other worlds, and he's not afraid of the darkness.
I think it's like, it's interesting, like material, like how does he switch? Like my question is, how does he switch like that? Like, where does his brain go that he like just switches?
That he thinks this giant void that's sucking everything up is a good thing.
Yeah, and like, where does he get this, like the whole thing with the void? Like, where does that, like, he's like, the door is open. I don't know. Like, like, where does that come from?
Kyrie did say that he had changed, so that maybe the indication is that his development up to this point has been happening behind the scenes. I don't know.
Yeah, I just, it's hard. There's going to have to be an explanation, just because for him to develop that weird thing there when they're just like little kids on an island, but then all of a sudden have this weird obsession with doors opening and closing. I don't know. I just hope that it gets explained in a way that's believable and makes sense. So you have the interaction with Riku. Riku gets sucked into the darkness, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Keyblade appears in your hand. And then now you can start kicking some Heartless ass.
Right, yeah, you can actually do damage to the enemies.
And I love the Keyblade is one of my favorite weapons in a video game ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just a sword at this point. Like, you can just swing it and hit people with it.
Yes, however, it looks cool.
It does. It's basically a key on a handle.
Joe is not into this weapon, guys. I'm like, this is the best weapon ever. Joe's like, it's a god sword. Shut up.
It is, yeah. It's a sword, but you can actually like do damage to the enemies. At this point. That's the whole point of what's happening.
And then you go back into the cave where you met the hooded guy.
Right, exactly. And you see Kyrie there,
and she like seems like real out of it, and then she like just kind of disappears into you and then through you.
Yeah, she reaches for you and then is pulled through the door.
So it's weird. Weird happening, guys. There's Heartless, there's Blackness, there's Voids.
And you don't know they're the Heartless at this point. Nobody said that to you.
That's correct. That is correct. But yeah, so it's out there a little bit. And so then all of a sudden you get stuck, you fight the dark side again, which is that giant creature you found and fought in the tutorial.
Right, this basically the tutorial boss you'll fight again. The fight's very similar. I think he has one more move.
No.
But you'll fight, is it just the same?
It's the exact same moveset.
But yeah, you'll fight him, you win, and then you wind up falling through the floor, I think. And you wake up in Traverse Town.
Yes. So yeah, anything else you want to say about that intro? I mean, it's all pretty just kind of ethereal and just kind of obscure.
It's just weird. Yeah, it's just weird.
In terms of the questions, what are the questions that we have that we want answered at this point? Like, we want to know what the deal is with like the opening and closing of doors. What is that? Like, what is going on there with the doors? I really want to know Riku's motivation, and I want to understand like why he has those things that he has. Like, I just want to know his motivation. Where did Kyrie come from, and why did Sora get the Keyblade?
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to find out the things that we've been like. You're right. You've identified the key like pieces of mystery that you come out of that section with, but it's still like that first section was such a mess.
How? Why? What was a mess about it to you?
I don't know it. Like none of it felt real, but I have a feeling that part was supposed to be very real. Like, it didn't seem like those kids actually belonged in that situation.
Right.
They didn't behave like they did. Also, like, when we get to the next part in Traverse Town, like, it seems like everyone he's ever known has just died, including his parents, and it's like kind of hand-waved and never addressed again. Like, I like the aesthetics of this game a lot. I like the music. I like some of the dialogue is nice and cool.
Yeah.
But that first section is so weird, and I'm wondering if anything is going to happen in the story to kind of make it feel like it has a place, or if it's just weird and won't
and esoteric. I think it will. I can't remember because, like I said, I played it pretty mindlessly when I was a kid, and then even when I played it again when I bought the 1.524 remix on PS4, it was just I played it. I don't know. I hope that it does, and I feel like the game is so well received, and people really like the story that I can't imagine there being a lot of holes like that left hand waved. You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those things that we just need to be patient and just kind of.
Do you know when you're just trying not to spoil?
No, I don't. I don't remember because I'm telling you, the plot is it is great, and that's what I said that earlier. Like that's one of the things I'm excited about is because I played it so mindlessly. I don't really remember a lot of the plot and stuff, and because it's so kind of thick and convoluted at some point, I do remember that. Even though right now it doesn't seem like it. It'll be good to like.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
That entire first section is just so like dreamy and weird and full of like conversations that seem like something out of a dream sequence, but allegedly there's really happening on the island between these kids that I hope it's something more than it seems, but we'll see.
I agree.
And do you get the flashback with Donald and Goofy before you wake up in Traverse Town?
Oh, like to the castle? Yes, that happens in between nights when you're on Destiny Island.
Oh shoot, okay, I completely forgot about that.
So we should probably address those.
You get a flashback or not a flashback, like a flash over to what is essentially like the Disney castle somewhere out in space, where Donald and Goofy work for King Mickey Mouse, I guess, and are showing up to. And this is just thrown at you, like no introduction. Like this is what's happening and what's real. Welcome to it. And Donald's going to wake Mickey up, finds out he's not there, and there's a letter there waiting for him. And Mickey has gone to investigate the fact that like stars are disappearing from the sky.
Yeah, and when those stars disappear, those are worlds disappearing.
Which we find out later, which it includes the world that Sora just lived in.
Right, the Destiny Island is correct.
But Donald and Goofy set out on the gummy ship to go find Mickey.
Yeah, and man, I love the interaction of Donald and Goofy. I think it works.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really well. It's weird because like it's Mickey. This makes a lot more sense to me because obviously these are characters that I understand and like their weird interactions with each other makes sense to me because I understand the cartoon language around it. So this section wasn't nearly as jarring as the beginning section with the three allegedly real life kids.
Right. It's also a lot less weird.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun little section. And then you move back to, or sometime after this, you move back to Sora waking up in Traverse Town. Which you'll find out is basically where not everyone, but some people whose worlds are destroyed wind up. I don't know how some people get there and some don't, but Sora's one of them.
Yeah, I also don't know. So Traverse Town, first thing I want to say about that, the music. I love it.
It is good music.
But the word traverse means like to pass through. So it's almost like it's a town where you pass through to get to other stuff, which is literally what you're doing. Like that's it's kind of like your home base town. I found this town to be a little bit more annoying than anything else so far. But basically you're there and Mickey has written a letter and tells Goofy and Donald to find the person with the key. And so they're looking for you, basically. And you get there, you meet Sid, which is a Final Fantasy VII character in the little accessory shop. And I really like that. I really like it because they call him Gramps is one of the things they call him, which is what in Final Fantasy VII, that's what they call him to make him real mad. They call him Gramps. And he's like, I'm not your effing grandpa. And it has like, the little bleepy symbols or whatever. So that's like kind of a cool little flashback. And I guess you wouldn't know that if you had not played the game.
Which I hadn't, so I did.
So you didn't know that, but that was a cool thing. Here's where you're meeting most of the Final Fantasy characters is right here in this place. So you're looking. I don't even know what you're looking for. You're just kind of walking around, trying to get your bearings.
He's looking for
Riku,
Kairi and Riku. Yeah, no, not even a thought spared for his parents. But once again, like I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, that is a weird. It's weird. So you're looking for Kairi and Riku, and Sid said Sid's a real nice guy. Said he'll help you, whatever, because he's a sweet old man. And so all the while, Donald and Goofy are looking for you. And so this whole sequence here is, to me, this is very frustrating material because it's like you're trying to make
you have to walk
happen.
To the right.
Yes.
Yeah. and you have to be in the right place to make the cutscene happen. And it's not always obvious where you're supposed to go. So there's a lot of like backtracking. It's an annoying
very, very annoying sequence. I was not happy with this. The good thing is because I'm a grindy person, you're basically getting like free grindage, Yeah,
because Heartless are popping up as you're walking.
Right. And so you're just kind of like grinding around, trying to find Goofy and Donald, I guess. Well, I mean, yeah, that's who you're trying to find.
Yeah, the character isn't, but you, the player, like with the dramatic irony of you knowing what's going on, you're trying to have basically guide Sora around until he runs into Donald and Goofy.
Right. And eventually you run into Leon,
who is Squall
from Final
Fantasy VIII. So I don't know why he's calling himself Leon.
Because somebody calls him Squall and he corrects them. So that's like not an oversight. That's a purposeful choice. Like Yuffie calls him Squall.
I don't know why they did it.
But yeah, so you find Squall and you can beat him in that fight.
Well, yeah, he says, "Give me that Keyblade," and you don't want to, and you wind up having to fight him. I did lose that one.
I won that fight.
Okay.
Basically,
but either way, you think you wind up passing out, and you wake up in that house.
You do. And so basically, that's when Squall kind of gives you some story about the Heartless and what they are, and how like they're chasing Sora because they fear him because of the Keyblade. So wherever the Keyblade is, that's where the Heartless are going to be.
And because he has the Keyblade, they like especially want to get his soul, or his heart.
And he talks about how there's darkness in it. Like the Heartless are attracted to the darkness in hearts, and that everybody has darkness.
Right.
And this is also
a tiny bit of explanation, not much, but a tiny bit.
Did it satiate your need for an explanation at all?
No, absolutely not.
So. He talks about everybody having darkness in their heart, and that the Heartless are attracted to the Keyblade. There's some other stuff that he says in there that I can't remember exactly what it is. Do you remember what he says in there? This is a big thing. Is like the fact that there's other worlds, that's supposed to be a secret.
Oh,
remember? Because Donald
and Goofy know it, but others don't. Everyone in Traverse Town probably has a suspicion, considering they're all from different worlds. But yeah, not a super well kept secret. But Donald and Goofy give the indication that they're not supposed to talk about it in front of others, but then they give up on it because they're going to have to move between the worlds to find Mickey.
Right. And that because when the Heartless arrived, the worlds became connected. And then this is also when they bring up Ansem.
Yeah, a guy who apparently has done a lot of studying on the Heartless and has notes.
And that his little book or whatever has been like scattered.
Yeah, scattered across the world. Or the worlds, plural.
Right, which is not a secret anymore. And also he also indicates that the Keyblade chooses the master. So now we have this question of like, oh man, why did it choose Sora that we have to answer?
Yeah, who's apparently some weird kid from a weird island.
In the middle of nowhere.
Right.
All right, so then eventually you fight the you fight the armor thing.
Guard armor or something like that. Had a little bit of a hard time with that boss. There were a few attacks that he does that I couldn't figure out how to avoid, that maybe you're supposed to tech, but I just didn't do it well enough. But I managed to get past it either way.
That was definitely a tough boss fight. I think it's tougher than the boss fight in Wonderland. Honestly, I think that boss fight. I think that the guard armor one does not reward aggression, whereas
unless there.
Go ahead.
Unless there were a few attacks that I think you might have only been able to tech and not dodge, unless I totally missed something about it.
I cannot remember. But yeah. So the guard armor is your first real boss fight. I mean, because Darkseid is pretty easy, all things considered. It's not crazy hard. The Darkseid boss fight, and then Goofy's like, "All right, we got to find the king. You're coming with us, but only if you smile."
Yeah, that was a weird scene too. What does he say that makes him sad before they ask him to smile?
I think he's just sad about not having his friends. I don't remember if there's something that's actually said to...
But does he ever acknowledge that his parents and everybody he knows are dead?
I don't think he ever acknowledges that.
Cool. All right. Yeah, let's move on.
I don't think I acknowledged it because he didn't acknowledge it, so I didn't think about it.
No, fine. I'm overthinking it, sure, but yeah.
I don't think you're overthinking it. I like that that's where your brain is at.
Yeah.
I appreciate the amount of thinking it that you're doing.
But there's a little joke where they say this ship runs on happy faces, and he has to make like a really dorky smile, and they laugh, and it's a cute little scene.
I thought it was a cute
but
scene.
Yeah, you take off, and you have to choose between two worlds, one of which is like a single star, the other of which is a double star for difficulty. We're going to assume everybody picked the single star first, which is Wonderland.
Because we definitely picked the single star, which was an appropriate move because we're on proud mode. So you go to Wonderland, and
you get there, you find out about the world traversal mechanic in this game, which is flying the gummy ship in basically like a little Star Fox style level between each world, where you fly a course, like the same course between each world that you're flying to.
How do you feel about the gummy ship? What are your thoughts?
I really love the idea of it. I just feel like the execution wasn't very good.
I am 100% on board with that. It is not.
I really do like the idea of having like a space shooter section with like a persistent course between each place that you're going. Like it really gives you a sense that you're going somewhere. And I love those kinds of games. So it could have been really great, but it's just not super good.
Yeah.
I feel like I was hitting things a few times when it looked like I definitely shouldn't have been running into them. So like the depth perception was off. Things pop in really heavily. There's not a lot of variety as far as like the stuff you can do. You can customize the gummy ship, which might be fun. I haven't tried to do that yet. I know that mechanic.
Do you want me to hurt your feelings?
But yeah, go ahead.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
The gummy ship customization is awful. Trying to build it, it's like almost broken.
Well, crap. But yeah, it's not nearly as good as it could have been, which it made me a little sad. But it's also not unplayable, so it's fine.
It's not unplayable. It is. I think it's fine is the perfect description for what it is.
Yeah,
like it's fine. It's fine.
But it could have been great. It could have been a really good thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
And I can't remember. I know they maintained in Kingdom Hearts 2, they maintained that thing, and I can't remember if they fixed it. I imagine they would have fixed it and made it more playable. But yeah, it could have been a really fun sequence that like was almost a break from the monotony of the game. Or even the difficulty, because I don't think Proud Mode affects how hard the gummy section is.
It doesn't seem so. It seems pretty easy. But yeah, you get to Wonderland, which is Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland.
It's exactly what you would think. All the things you would think are there, they're there.
Yeah.
Think of a thing from Wonderland.
And the first section is that. Well, not everything.
Well, what's not there? Oh, the caterpillar. Tweedledee, Tweedledum.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay, so not everything. I stand corrected.
But yeah, you get there, and the first room is like that iconic tiny door with the two potions that will make you either shrink down or grow bigger. Yeah. I think you see Alice go.
The rabbit. You see the rabbit
door when you first get there. Oh, the rabbit. That's right. Yeah, the rabbit who's always late.
Yeah, the white rabbit.
And you have to drink the potion and find your way in.
Yeah, and basically what you're walking into is the Queen of Hearts has accused Alice of trying to steal her heart, and so you're trying to defend Alice.
That's right. Which is a clue that the Heartless are probably there because their whole shtick is stealing hearts.
You get it? You see, Heartless stealing hearts.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like you're trying to find these 4 clues to like exonerate Alice from being decapitated by the Queen of Hearts. And so obviously the Heartless have shown up. You encounter a couple of new Heartless enemies. You encounter those I think it's called, what are they? The Red Rhapsodies or Blue Rhapsody, and like the Red Rondos. Like the little wizard, they shoot like ice and fire.
Oh yeah, these little mages.
Yeah, and then you acquire the big belly guys.
Oh, they're such a pain.
That's something I think they did well. Is like the enemies. I think they're cool.
It definitely adds variety to the mob fights.
Yeah,
which is important because if you were only fighting like the on the ground Heartless the entire time, that could be painful.
Yeah,
but yeah, they introduce some variety.
Which is really fun. Eventually, you find the 4 clues. Of course, the Queen of Hearts doesn't believe you anyway because she's an awful human being. And then Alice gets kidnapped. And that fight on Proud Mode, the fight when the Queen of Hearts is like, "Forget you," anyway, and like when you're having to destroy that stupid thing, it's hard, man.
Oh God, yeah, I had a hard time with that. And depending on like which, you have some options during the trial, and if you pick one of them, like I can't remember if it was just one of your friends or both Goofy and Donald get locked in a cage. And then you have to deal with the mobs by yourself, and it makes it that much harder.
Oh, I think what happens is like it's the evidence, and so like if you don't pick the right evidence, right? Then all of a sudden, somebody gets locked in the cage and you have to fight by yourself, which I can't even imagine what that would be like, because that fight is hard. Like,
oh yeah, I lost when that happened, and then I picked a different option and I managed to keep them with me, and it wasn't too bad.
And if you get if you find all of the evidences in favor of exonerating Alice, you get like the power of Blizzard.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, so you have to find all of them because you want that ice power, because there's something you can get in Traverse Town by putting out those candles.
I did get Blizzard eventually.
Oh, how?
I don't know when I did. I don't remember.
Oh, I wonder how.
Maybe I did find all the evidence.
I wonder how they do that. Like, I wonder how they set that up. So eventually, Alice gets taken, and the Cheshire Cat is like talking about like the Heartless and the shadows, and how you have to make the shadows appear by lighting stuff up in the upside down room or whatever, which is basically the upside down room.
You wind up going back.
Go ahead.
You wind up going back to the same room over it, and a few different times where it's either oriented sideways or oriented upside down, which was kind of cool.
The bizarre room is what it's called.
Right, I think that's what they call it. But yeah, once you light the candles to create the shadows, the boss for this world comes out.
And I can't. Do you remember what he's called?
Trickmaster?
Yeah, something like that. And he's a cool little boss fight.
He's a weird one. He has this thing where he tries to get to the stove to light his candles, and he'll start throwing fireballs at you. And I think you can actually tech the fireballs.
Yes,
but you can never get the timing.
You can tech them, and you can avoid them easy-ish. I avoided them moderately easy, but I think the one time I was efficient enough that I was able to pretty much keep him away from the stove.
That's what I wound up having to do too. Just stay aggressive and keep him.
Yeah, and that boss fight is definitely rewards you for being aggressive, for sure, without question. And so you beat the trickster, and then you end up locking the keyhole in that door. You find the keyhole to that universe, and you lock it.
And then you find out that's how you prevent the Heartless from coming in
and destroying.
And you've ultimately saved. Right, and you've ultimately saved that world from being snuffed out.
The Heartless are still there, and you can still fight them. But what you prevented is that world from being snuffed out. Correct. So yeah, and that takes us to the end of where we're at, our little playthrough. And Joe seems to be mostly a little bit of a fan, but not really. Seems to be a hard sell for you.
It's such a weird game. I do like it. I think it's charming. It's fun to play so far. The dialogue gets better later on.
You think so?
Or the dialogue is like intentionally like vague foreshadowing, but everything is like vague and dripping with foreshadowing in the beginning. And I think that's good and on purpose. But at the same time, it seems really strained when they're also supposed to be real conversations that kids are having with each other. Oh, that's beautiful, Tony. But yeah, the beginning section, even if it does seem like weird from where I'm trying to make sense of what these characters' relationships are to each other, because that's what I want. I want to figure out who these kids are to each other and why they are where they are. And that section of the game doesn't give that to you, like really deliberately.
I agree with you.
Instead, it's giving you a bunch of like thematic foreshadowing. And it does that well, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And that left me feeling a little bit frustrated.
Sure. I can see that. I can see that completely. And I wonder if it's different because I played through the game.
Maybe, yeah. And it could be that the questions I have never really get answered, and you're just supposed to like understand that these kids are connected and get invested in that because they're connected, and that's what drives the series. Even if you never understand like their history or why. And if that's the case, that's fine. Like as the game rolls along, I'll be able to buy into that. But just up at the beginning, everything was a little jarring.
It's a great game, man. It's a great game, and I think you'll enjoy it more and more as we go through it.
I really like the different scenery. Like it's obviously a PlayStation 2 game, so it's not an open world. It's really limited. You have these scene transitions, but they still do a good job like capturing a kind of like essence of the places that you're at in the different stages.
Definitely.
And I enjoy going to each one of the new ones.
Yeah, that I think is going to the different worlds is amazing. I think they did a good job of making them really fun and playable. And I think the bosses are really cool too.
They've been challenging, and I'm getting better at the game as I play it, but I had a hard time with the first.
Yeah, because I'm forcing myself to play on proud mode, I'm getting a lot better, quicker.
Donald and Goofy are dead a lot, especially on boss fights for me, and I don't know if it's because I've tweaked their AI. And we didn't talk about this, but you can actually like change AI settings for your companions.
Really?
They get their own Yeah, have you not tried that? You can go into customize and you can set like whether or not they should be using like support magic or attack magic, or should they be aggressive or defensive. Like there's stuff that you can tweak, and I've played around with it a little bit, but not as much as I probably should.
Interesting. No, I've done none of that. And
you can give them items to use. Yeah, you can give them different items to use. You can. They have their own AP points, and you can assign their abilities for them.
That I knew.
Yeah,
but in terms of like actually changing,
but there's a lot of customization you can do, and I don't know how much their being dead is like my fault for just not tweaking them correctly. But yeah, I'm sounding really critical. Overall, I am really enjoying the game, and I am very curious to see what they do with this story, because they've created a really, really interesting universe, and you know almost nothing about it at this point, and I do want to know more about it, and it is fun to play. So I'm excited to dig into it, and I might be a little grumpier about it because we took a big break, even though we started playing the game right away. So it has been a while since I played through this section. So it's occasionally hard for me to remember.
But the next section you've not played through, so you should be fresh on that one, yeah?
Yeah, this next session I'll be very fresh on because I've started playing it. Plus, like I'm just enjoying the gameplay more in the next couple of worlds than I did in the first one, Wonderland.
Yeah, I think it opens up a little bit.
Yeah. It's not that it opens up. I just think that the things that there are to do are more fun to do. And the character interactions are more entertaining to me.
Yeah, I could see that. The next section of gameplay will be up and through the Aladdin world of Agrabah. So yeah, tweet in, one guy in the Discord, say some stuff.
Yeah, Discord guy, tell us some stuff.
Did he respond to you ever?
Yeah, he did. Tony, do you go into our Discord?
I went in like 2 days ago and I didn't see it. Did he respond? When did he respond?
You went in 2 days ago. But you don't keep Discord up, and it's meant to be like a chat room, which implies like fairly continuous interaction.
Oh, okay, so what do I do to use it more effectively? I feel like a fucking grandpa asking you that question.
There's an app for your phone.
I have that.
There's an app for your PC that you can run and get but you don't have notifications.
I have to turn on the notifications.
If you want to, yeah, or you can. I guess I check it fairly regularly on my phone, even for servers I don't actively have.
How excited was he that
phone
we were still playing
set up for? I mean, he was kind of excited. This is I should go ahead and give him a plug. This was Brent, who runs the RPG Show, which is another JRPG podcast that I drop into their Discord channel sometimes and chat. But he said that they did a Kingdom Hearts playthrough, but their listener base are actually not very big fans of the game.
Really?
But they wound up doing a review episode, so we need to give that a listen and see what they came up with.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Brent's at the RPG Show.
That's right.
This episode's for you, my friend. So yeah, guys, that's our first part of the Kingdom Hearts playthrough. The podcast that you're going to hear is going to be wildly edited, so it will be nothing like what was recorded.
Yeah, we talked a long time and went on some trips. Oh man, Kingdom Hearts episode 1. This was a little bit of a hard one to do because it's been so long since we played the first section, and there's so much there. But I'm really looking forward to episode 2 because we're going to have played that section much more recently, and there is a lot that I hope gets answered.
Me too. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Tweet at us at cast_roll. Facebook, Role Playing Gamescast. Email, roleplayinggamescast@gmail.com.
Yeah, if you're listening, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and it lets us know that there are people out there listening.
Brent, talk to us. Send us some information. Let us know how we're doing.
How's it going, Brent? Rob, I hope you're listening too. You're there in the Discord. We do have a Discord server. I have a link up on the Twitter account. I tweeted it out a day ago or so. It'll stay up there. It's a permanent link. So if you want to come chat with us, please join. Once every 3 to 4 weeks, Tony logs onto Discord. So at him with a question, and he'll get to it. It's basically like email for him. But I'll be on there.
All right, guys. This is the end of the episode. Thank you for listening. I'm Tony.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm Joe.
Thanks for listening.
Tony, at some point we have to stop just reading things that are on sale and saying the price.